Bitcoin once died, for real. For a few hours at least. On August 15, 2010, a new block appeared as usual on the Bitcoin blockchain, block number 74,638. At first glance, it looked normal, just another block quietly added to the chain, but buried inside was a transaction that should have been impossible. Instead of sending a normal amount of Bitcoin, it generated an absurd number of new coins, about 184 billion BTC. When you consider that the total supply was meant to mathematically be capped at 21 million, this wasn't just a glitch, it was an existential crisis. It was as if someone had walked into a small local economy and suddenly printed a mountain of cash tall enough to reach outer space. The whole idea behind Bitcoin was decentralized money with rules that couldn't be changed. Only 21 million coins, forever. And suddenly the blockchain was saying something completely different. The cause was something almost embarrassingly mundane, an integer overflow bug. Computers can only store numbers up to a certain limit, and if a calculation goes past that limit, it can wrap around into a completely different value, like a speedometer rolling back to zero after hitting its maximum. Bitcoin's early code didn't properly catch this, which meant the network didn't reject the transaction, it accepted it. It treated it as valid, even though it violated the rules Bitcoin was supposed to enforce. So for a few hours, the ledger that was meant to be incorruptible contained a block that completely defied its most sacred rule. And in a system built entirely on credibility, that's concerning. Today, it's hard to imagine Bitcoin being shaken by a single bug, but back then, the network was tiny. There were no major exchanges, institutional investors, or miners running industrial-scale warehouses. There was no Bitcoin community in the way we think of it now. There was just a small group of people who believed in the project enough to run the software and talk about it online. And among them was Satoshi Nakamoto, still actively involved, writing code and responding to messages. Satoshi wasn't a myth yet, just one of the people holding this fragile thing together. When the overflow was discovered, Satoshi and the other early developers moved quickly. Within hours, a patched version of Bitcoin was released that fixed the vulnerability and prevented the exploit from happening again. But the bigger problem remained. The bad block was already part of the chain, already recorded into Bitcoin's history. So they did something that would probably be considered sacrilege today. They rolled the blockchain back. Well, sort of. In the world of decentralized software, you can't just hit undo on a central server. Instead, Satoshi released an updated version of the software that treated the overflow block as invalid. As network nodes upgraded and ran the patched software, the chain reorganized, switching onto a corrected version. It effectively erased the invalid block from Bitcoin's active history, along with its 184 billion BTC. In practice, this meant the community collectively agreed to pretend that reality had gone slightly differently a few hours ago, and then continued forward from there. And it worked. Within a day, the overflow coins had vanished from the system. Most Bitcoin holders today have probably never even heard about the overflow bug, but it's an important moment in its history, reminding us that Bitcoin's early survival wasn't the result of perfect, unstoppable, decentralized mechanics. It survived not because it was invincible, but because people decided it was worth saving. And people still decided it was worth saving in 2018. The next time Bitcoin had another near-death experience. That story's next.